welcome to 53 North. I'm Dan Rogers. Well, I have another unique individual that you can judge for yourself that he is unique. He's 63-year-old Bud Merz. He runs his own sawmill in Quesnel, and he has a rather unique backyard. We'll have a tour of that when 53 North continues.
It's more interesting than things that are just standing dead.
Bud Merz is a living piece of history. He's what you call a collector, but not just any collector. He collects and saves just about anything he can get his hands on, from old tractors, many of which still run.
Yep, runs good.
To classic cars that would enhance any collection.
And you got a few more cars in here, old and new.
These are the kind we like to drive today. This is 1929 Model A Ford Town Sedan, the very top line of Model A's. There was only 84,000 of these made. It has a Murray body. It was the most elaborate Model A built.
A stroll around his property would keep you busy for weeks, but the Merz Museum doesn't end there. The family's living room is home to one of the more respectable bottle collections around.
This green article is an eye cup used to rest tired and sore eyes, filled with water and maybe a little drop of murine and inverted over the eye.
You picked that up in the Caribou here?
It's from the Caribou, yes. I think I cheated and bought that one.
What age is that, do you know?
Late teens or early 20s.
Just down from that, past the picture of your dad there, that long neck bottle?
The long neck bottle is a lady's leg. It had a high class of liquor, perhaps something like champagne. They're very rare. You seldom find a good one.
Is that from around here?
Yes, that is. Goldfield area.
Was that part of the good times, do you think, that was enjoyed during the gold rush?
I think so. We don't even find many broken ones. There just aren't many, so I think it was a pretty rare liquor. I have found 2 bottles, and I know of 1 other in the country. That's all.
Next to that, insulators?
Couple, 3 insulators. This one, the sun has turned it purple. Would have once been clear. This was chopped out where a tree grew around it. And this one, we just cut the whole block of wood out where the tree has grown around it.
You've got some unique bottles against the wall there.
These are known as cod stoppers. The man's name that invented the form of sealing the bottle name was Cod, C-O-D-D. There's a gasket in here which is dried out. Used to be up here. Soda water was in them, and that held the marble up tight against the gasket. So when you wanted to drink, you pushed the marble down and let the gases escape. Then you would turn the bottle this way. The marble would be in your way for either drinking or pouring out. So you turned it this way, and there's 2 little shoulders held the marble. So the liquor could be emptied out. Not liquor, but soft drink.
Any idea how old that one might be, Bud?
I think in the 80s, 1880s.
Another piece of history sits in the corner of the living room. It's a 19th century Victrola. Like most of the Merz collection, its appearance is only outdone by its performance. Another sweet sound, at least around the Merz household, is the sound of Bertha, a McCormick Deering tractor that is Bud's pride and joy. This piece of machinery, like a lot of the Merz Museum, runs as efficiently as it did when it first came off the production line back in 1930.
3/4. We've already went 4, but we're not getting gas through her. That's what I want to see.
Sounds pretty good, eh, Bud?
I think she sounds pretty good.
Music to your ears?
That's music to my ear.
It's a pretty good old workhorse.
She does the work that it would cost us a big, expensive tractor to do.
She does a lot of
I
work.
haven't had any flat tires either yet.
The dig's in pretty good. Pretty proud of
She
the way
will,
she runs, eh?
she will idle, when the manifolds get hot, she'll idle just a little bit smoother. She might be missing an odd shot.
She's a pretty good old workhorse.
Oh, yeah. No way anybody can acquire or rely on it.
Bertha, along with much of the machinery scattered around the property, is here because of Bud's #1 project, the Merz's sawmill. It was once one among many small sawmills around the Caribou, but now the one-man operation stands alone.
Yeah, you go to the building supply, and anything we've got any good in this country seems to be shipped to Japan or wherever, States. Come here, you get good lumber.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. See, that's a satisfied customer.
It's good to have them, eh? More on the sawmill in a moment, but first, to get a feel for the place, we backtrack to where our visit began, the place where most begin, at his front gate. It's the first thing people see as they drive by, and most can't help but give it a second look. The gate and fence are made of old automobile parts and aging machines that have found new life, separating the rest of the world from the world that Bud Merz calls home.
Discarded Model T Ford parts, frame, crown gear, crankshaft, connecting rods, clutch pedal, camshaft. And the same on that one, so that there's the same pieces, you see. That's made of chain, modern chain. And
Where was the crankshaft from?
Model T Ford.
Model T Ford? Okay.
Yeah. Everything Model T Ford, the frame pieces. Then the horseshoes are from some of the old trails, and the saws are also, you can see the wear on them. They're from the gold fields too.
How long did it take to get all this together, Bud?
That's a question that's really hard because I was sick when I made it, and I used to do a little now and then. Probably I worked off and on for 6 months or a year, you know, maybe.
So just thought it'd be nice to have, or what was the idea behind it?
I had a wooden gate and it rotted, and I wanted to make one that didn't rot, and I want to utilize pieces of the old cars. This is a Fordson tractor wheel from an early Fordson. The center wheel is a control wheel from a very early grader. That wheel was used to raise and lower the blade through a worm gear system. The big wheel is a mine hoist wheel.
From?
From the gold fields.
A little bit of history all along this
all
gate,
of it is, every piece is built from historical parts. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the opening here and what you have for the...
This is a piece of radius rod from the Model T. Then this looked too blank, so we stuck a Model T spark plug here. Welded.
Bud's welding technique was put to use on the front gate and also on his mailbox. Once again, he used old automobile parts to add his personal touch. In order to keep it from being knocked over, he secured it to a 1915 GMC 4-cylinder flathead engine. The vintage piece of machinery was used on a truck and in a gold mine. Now it's being used as an anchor.
Got lots of animals around to keep you company.
Well, we got a few cats and dogs.
And this is the majority of the outside fence.
Yes.
What do you have, the potato?
This is a potato digger. This sharp part went down under the potatoes, run them on a chain that had slats across it this way, and then dropped them out at the back so they could be picked up.
Any idea how old this is? Hard to say.
I think it's in this era.
Late 1800s?
Very close, 1900s, I should say. It come from the same farm. I don't know what it would take to pull it. Probably 2 horses, at least 2, because that's a big chunk of dirt it had to lift up.
And then the larger one is, of course,
this is
hay
a
baler?
horse-powered hay baler. Pulled in beside the stack, wheels dug down so the horse could cross this, step over it, and the horses were hooked here. They went around and around, and that activates this tumbler. Runs the ram back there, which compresses the hay. And the bales were very heavy in comparison with today's bales. Today's bales probably run around 50 pounds, but these were from 150 to 200. All of them were different. There was no 2 the same. There used to be a little piece of shingle stuck in under the wire where they had weighed it, and this one would weigh 165, the next one was 195.
And this is probably late 1800s, early 1900s?
Yes, I would say that this is about 1880. It was brought down the river by steamboat and unloaded at a local ranch.
Did you ever get amazed at some of this equipment? And I mean, this is, you look at how old this is, and it was still pretty functional.
Yes, I understand. I've talked to a fellow that worked when this was running. He's very old now, quite old now, and he said they were baling hay about the last he could remember for John A. Fraser's store in Quesnel. That would be Alec Fraser, our local MP. It was his dad's store. But probably ran toward the last about 1930.
From the front fence, the tour through time continued with a look at some of the Merz's unique lawn ornaments.
This is a very small monitor, again used for mining.
Explain a little bit of the background on this.
The water is brought in here, and it's going out under high pressure. And this lever is what controls it. I've got it locked, actually. Oh, no, I guess not. This is so that you can bring it around to different points where you want to shoot.
And just they use the pressure of the water.
Just the pressure of the water. There's no mechanical pumps or engines involved with a monitor. This is a very small one.
Did the job pretty good.
Yes.
Did they use these much, do you know?
There was a lot of use of them in the gold fields. A lot of them used. A lot of them been just run over by D8s, and they're squashed and wrecked.
So a lot of wood and a lot of metal in there. This is a thrashing machine.
A thrashing machine pulled to this country from Ashcroft, which was the nearest railhead at that time.
It would have been an incredible sight to see this being pulled along the
It
road.
would have been. I don't know how long it would have taken to have been pulled, but it was brought to the country by John Yorston to the Australian ranch, which is still in existence. And we have old blacksmith equipment here. I found an old blacksmith shop, and to you would think that's an old building, you know, kind of a decrepit looking building, but it's just where the brush grew. The brush grew a little better in this area because the floor was like cultivated. And when we dug it all up, these are a few of the things that we dug up. This is a good example of hand forging. That's fire welding. Today we would take a piece of plate steel and cut it out with a torch. But this is made of a bar, welded together by heat and hammering.
It would have taken some time to do that.
I would guess so. I think it's becoming a lost art, and especially something of that heft and size. There's blacksmith-made chain. Every link is different. And the blacksmiths always made chains when they weren't busy. They'd keep some round iron, and they constantly kept building a few links. Pretty soon they had a chain. This is a tire iron shrinker to make wagon wheels with. This shrank the rim. This is a tire iron bender, which forms a perfectly round rim any size wherever you set it to.
I get the feeling you could probably appreciate the blacksmiths of their time.
Oh, I really would, yeah. Everybody looked up to a blacksmith of that era. He was considered a pretty smart fellow.
There are a couple of reasons why Bud has been able to keep his massive collection. One, because his wife lets him. The other, because of his one-man sawmill that finances the whole operation.
Tonight we focus on Bud's one-man sawmill and the unique skills that still provide a living for one of the Caribou's true pioneers. We're underway in 2 minutes.
Wanted to make things, and we have to look at it a little bit different today. The lumbering today is a little bit different than when I started. When I started, a tree had no value. And the thing is, by me milling, I could take a worthless tree and make a beautiful show beam. It would be just like me making a vintage car today, or anything that we have that you see around the yard that's old and decrepit and has been brought back to life. It was something that I could create something, which is what I've always been interested in doing.
Bud Merz has always done what interests him. That's one of the reasons why he's so interesting. Several years have passed since he first set his sights on buying his own sawmill, but through it all, the husky gentleman with huge hands and a mechanical mind has maintained his appreciation for a hard day's work. He grew up during a time when you had no choice but to work long and hard just to survive.
In 1951, I got the mill, and my dad went into a partnership with me, and we operated for half a dozen years until he became a little tired and older. So we had sometimes 1 and 2 hired men. In 1959, we seen that this wasn't really the answer for us, so we converted the mill to where the slabs were taken out by a belt. There was no more slab packing, and the lumber was only to be piled. Even the lumber didn't have to be carried, or it went down by belt.
The belts and pulleys were taken from old vehicles that Bud had acquired over the years. They'd worn out their usefulness on the road, but the engines and other parts were still able to find new life as part of the Merz's sawmill. Nothing in this man's world is ever thrown out. It's either rebuilt or put to use somewhere else.
It was powered by a 1950 Chrysler. We put that in. We've never had anything new. Everything's been used, but we put it in as a used engine in 1952. We ran the first year with a Wallace tractor. And it's been overhauled, of course, many times, but it gives us good service. It's very disappointing to me when I hear somebody condemn something that's, just a few years old. Because we are working machinery here that is older than me, some of it. And we don't have any trouble either.
Bud's age, by the way, is 63, and he still spends a large part of his day cutting lumber for his many customers. Some who've been coming to Bud for years, others who just come seeking a few pieces of lumber and perhaps a tour of the Merz's museum. And why does Bud think they keep coming back?
I don't think, I know it's a good grade, and I would rather make less lumber but make a better quality of lumber.
It's that dedication to quality, along with his work ethic, that has enabled the Merz sawmill to survive. When most of the small mills were closing down or being absorbed by the big companies, Bud just kept taking orders and rolling out the raw lumber. The 300 acres of land the Merz's own ensured a long supply of timber. It's a combination of those factors, as well as Bud's ability to improvise, that has left the Merz mill as one of the last remaining from the era when this country was first pioneered.
I think just check that and see for sure.
But while Bud's pioneer spirit enabled him to buy and operate his own mill, it also led to a back problem that almost left him unable to walk.
Are you satisfied? I was very strong as a young man, extremely strong. And we used to think it was kind of funny to lift up the front end of a Model T while somebody put a block under the axle. You know, it was a fun thing to do. And many times when we were cutting lumber, I no doubt overloaded my body by piling it faster sometimes than I should have. It was so serious that in 1968, our local doctor told me that I would never work again for sure and very likely never walk again. There would be a pretty good chance if I had an operation that I would be all right, but I wouldn't take the chance.
Instead of surgery, he sought help from a Prince George chiropractor. He told Bud that he'd be able to do light work within 2 years. True to Bud's character, though, he was back working in the mill in just 3 short months. How's it feel now?
Pretty good. Yeah.
And with another smile, Bud goes back to work and fires up old Bertha, his 1930 McCormick Deering tractor. It's another part of his working museum, and both Bud and Bertha are still getting the job done.
Well, I'm gradually slowing up. I don't put the hours in anymore, even that I was putting in last year. Because a normal day for me is sometimes around 16 hours.
Did you need to work that hard? Do you need to work that hard to make it all run and survive, or?
That's a tough question. We might not have needed to, but there's an opportune time to work. When it's very cold, things don't work right. It's better, you've got about, I would say, 7 months to make 12 months pay in it, because in the winter, the days are short, everything's cold, the woods keep snowing in, you're snow plowing a lot of the time. A big outfit can survive easier in the winter because there's somebody plowing the road, somebody hauling the log, but where you're doing all that alone. So I figured I had to make my money. I give myself 7 months out of the year to do that. And then in the winter I work in the garage and overhaul things. And maybe make Model T engines, whatever I like to do.
And one of the things he likes to do is collect old cars. The cars are a living reminder of times gone by. This beauty rolls out and down the street as if it's just off the production line. This classic and a few others that Bud owns link the past with the present. Making sure the link remains is, of course, Bud Merz.
We don't drive them very much. I don't seem to have enough time, but of course you must realize that those were the type cars that we had to drive years ago. I've put thousands and thousands of miles on this type vehicle, so today really I like to drive my big Chryslers. I won't sell the outfit, I'll just show up. Even if I'd only cut a dozen logs a week, maybe. Maybe I'll need that lumber myself to do something, because I'm not going to quit. I have to do something. I have to fix old cars or do a little sawmilling or work on a tractor. I've got to do something.